Bronny James has finally broken his silence about his future with the Lakers after his father's shocking departure. Although his contract is fully guaranteed, the team has already brought in elite rookie shooters to challenge his spot. Wait until you hear the private demand the front office gave Bronny to stay on the roster. So father is gone, but the son stays. Here's what that actually looks like. The news dropped on June 30, 2026, the opening day of NBA free agency. LeBron James would be moving on from the Los Angeles Lakers, with ESPN's Shams Charania first reporting that he told the Lakers he'd be leaving, quoting his agent Rich Paul. Just like that, an 8-year chapter slammed shut. On the opening day of NBA free agency, the 41-year-old star informed the Lakers he does not plan to return for the 2026-27 season. Instead, he'll pursue another team for what would be an unprecedented 24th NBA season. Nobody had done that before. Nobody has even come close. The news quelled speculation that James would retire at the end of the 2025-26 campaign. At 41 years old, he wasn't done, he just wasn't staying. James's agent Rich Paul confirmed the decision to ESPN. LeBron James will continue his NBA career for the 2026-27 season and has informed the Los Angeles Lakers that the franchise can move on without him because he will play elsewhere, Paul told ESPN. Paul added, "We do want to evaluate what's best for LeBron at this stage in his life and career. He wants to make every season he has left count, and the Lakers understand that, are supportive, and want what's best for him. We are very appreciative of the partnership that we've had for 8 years with Jeannie Buss and Rob Pelinka, and consider the Lakers as a critical part of his career. Translation, it's over. Respectfully, but it's over." The Lakers responded publicly. LeBron James is one of the greatest athletes in history. Lakers president Jeannie Buss said in a statement, "We will always be thankful for his 8 years with the Lakers, including the title he led us to in 2020 under the toughest imaginable circumstances, and the countless records he broke in purple and gold. We wish him all the best in the future, both on the court and off. He will always be a cherished part of the Lakers family." James responded to the Lakers' statement, saying it was truly an honor to play for the franchise. There were no fireworks, no drama, just the clean, formal end of something massive. And right in the middle of all of this, right in the eye of that storm, sat Bronny, 21 years old, still a Laker. But now, for the very first time, a Laker on his own. They made history together in 2024, becoming the first father and son to share the court, not to mention playing for the same team during an NBA game. And they continue to share the same locker room and suit up in purple and gold for the past 2 seasons. That era is now closed. The sequence of events is difficult to ignore. The Lakers guaranteed Bronny's contract on June 29. Less than 24 hours later, Rich Paul informed the franchise that LeBron would enter free agency. While the two decisions were separate, they underscored that the Lakers had already secured Bronny's place before officially beginning life after LeBron. Think about what that means for a second. The front office, before they even knew publicly that LeBron was gone, had already decided to keep his son under the structure of his rookie contract. The Lakers could have waived him before the deadline and saved roughly $1 million against the cap. Instead, they allowed the deadline to pass, committing the full $2.3 million salary and signaling that Bronny remains part of their long-term developmental plans regardless of his father's exit. That's not a pity move. That's a calculated organizational decision. They chose him, independent of his father, before the whole world even knew LeBron was walking out the door. According to multiple sources, including Spotrac and front office shows Keith Smith, Bronny's $2.3 million contract with the Lakers is now fully guaranteed. That keeps Bronny in Los Angeles for the foreseeable future, as speculation continues about his father, and also about the type of player Bronny might become in the NBA. At the moment, there has been no indication that the Lakers are considering moving on from the 21-year-old guard. Los Angeles has remained committed to his long-term development, and with his salary now fully guaranteed, James appears firmly in the franchise's plans entering training camp. 2 years of questions, 2 years of noise, 2 years of people asking whether he belonged, and the Lakers answered without a word. They kept him. Full stop. The announcement itself came through carefully coordinated press releases. No surprise leak, no drama on social media. LeBron's team controlled the narrative from start to finish, making sure the messaging stayed professional and respectful on all sides. Sources close to the situation indicated that LeBron had informed the Lakers front office of his intentions roughly 48 hours before going public. That gave Pelinka and the coaching staff time to prepare internally to have conversations with the roster about what comes next, and to start mapping out free agency moves. But even with that heads up, the public announcement still sent shockwaves through the league. 8 years in LA, a championship, multiple playoff runs, the all-time scoring record broken in a Lakers uniform, and now it's done. Within hours of the announcement, teammates started posting tributes on social media. Austin Reeves posted a photo of him and LeBron from the 2020 championship run with a simple caption, "Nothing but respect for the GOAT." Luka Doncic, who had become LeBron's running mate over the past year, posted, "Learned more from you in one season than most players learn in a career. Thank you, King." The tributes kept rolling in. Former teammates, coaches, even rival players who'd battled LeBron for years found themselves weighing in with respect. That's the thing about LeBron's exit. Even people who'd criticized his game, questioned his decisions, or rooted against his teams couldn't help but acknowledge what he'd meant to the sport. And through all of it, the tributes, the speculation about his next destination, the think pieces about his legacy, Bronny stayed quiet, no statement, no social media post, just silence from the one person whose entire professional life had just fundamentally changed. Now here's where it gets complicated, because the internet wasn't going to let this breathe. The moment LeBron's exit became official, the conversation split in two directions almost instantly. One half was asking where LeBron was going next. The other half? Straight to Bronny. Critics, analysts, and fans online began asking the same thing they've been asking since 2024. Is Bronny James even supposed to be here? And now that the umbrella is gone, what does he actually look like standing on his own? Sports analysts and critics have questioned Bronny's ability to succeed in the NBA, especially playing in the shadow of his legendary father. And with LeBron now officially out of frame, those questions aren't going away. They're getting louder. It's going to be interesting to see what the younger James without his father will look like. Through 2 years, he's been an end-of-the-bench guy, averaging 2.7 points in 8.1 minutes of action. Those numbers aren't the stuff of hype. They're the numbers of a player still finding his footing. But here's the thing, context matters. Because Bronny's road to this moment started long before opening night 2024. It started with a collapse on a practice floor, a flatlined heartbeat, and a family that could have lost everything. And that story, where it really begins, what it cost, and what it means for him right now, is what most people either don't know fully or choose to skip past. So let's go back to where this actually started. What does LeBron's departure mean for the future of Bronny James? They made history together in 2024, becoming the first father and son to share the court during an NBA game. That moment was the peak of a narrative years in the making, and it's a narrative that almost didn't happen at all. On July 24, 2023, James collapsed during a USC practice session at the Galen Center. It was later revealed that he had suffered cardiac arrest caused by a congenital heart defect. James was released from the hospital 3 days later. 3 days in the hospital, the world holding its breath. At 18 years old, on a basketball court, Bronny James nearly died. And the story of who he is right now, why it's complicated, as he put it, cannot be understood without starting right there. James's departure now removes any remaining uncertainty surrounding the direction Pelinka outlined to Doncic nearly a year ago. The franchise that spent the better part of a decade building around LeBron has officially entered its Luka Doncic era, while Bronny's guaranteed contract ensures one member of the James family will still be part of the Lakers' next chapter. One James in, one James out. The franchise moves forward, and Bronny, for the first time in his life as a professional, moves forward alone. So what does that feel like? And what does it actually mean for a 21-year-old who's never had a single day in the spotlight without also being someone's son? To understand where he is now, you have to understand where he came from. And it starts with a last name that made everything both easier and infinitely harder. Bronny's road to being in the Lakers' playoff rotation earlier this spring was 2 years in the making, and longer than that if you go back to his time at USC. The son of arguably the greatest player in NBA history has endured plenty of scrutiny in his short career, but those playoff minutes were certainly earned. Earned. That word is doing a lot of work in that sentence, because from the very first day, his name entered basketball conversations, not as a kid watching his dad play, but as a prospect in his own right. The word earned has been the center of every argument. LeBron is not the only member of the James family currently employed by the Lakers, with critics often pointing out the 41-year-old's presence as the reason why Bronny plays for LA. LeBron James continues to keep his next course of action strictly under wraps, as once again, the possibility of a Los Angeles Lakers exit, a move away, and retirement also seemed to be genuine options he was considering. Now those options have a verdict, and Bronny is left to face his own. The Lakers front office held a team meeting 2 days after LeBron's announcement. Rob Pelinka addressed the roster, thanking them for 2 seasons of professionalism, and making it clear that the organization's championship goals hadn't changed, only the personnel pursuing those goals. Pelinka specifically addressed the younger players on the roster, including Bronny. He told them this was their opportunity to step up, to take on bigger roles, to prove they belonged in a system that was no longer built around accommodating the greatest player of his generation. That meeting, according to sources who were in the room, lasted less than 20 minutes. No drama, no speeches about legacy or pressure, just a clear-eyed assessment of where the team stood and where it needed to go. Business, the timing of everything, the contract guarantee, the announcement, the immediate shift to building around Luka, all pointed to one thing. The Lakers had been preparing for this for months, maybe longer. This wasn't a franchise scrambling to react to a star's departure. This was a franchise executing a plan they'd already drawn up, just waiting for the right moment to pull the trigger. And Bronny, whether he knew it or not at the time, had already been folded into that plan before his father even made his decision. So when people ask whether Bronny belongs in the NBA without LeBron there to prop him up, the Lakers already answered that question. They answered it on June 29, before anybody knew what LeBron was going to do. They kept him. They paid him. They cleared roster space for him. That's the answer. LeBron Raymond, Bronny James Jr. was born October 6, 2004, and is an American professional basketball player for the Los Angeles Lakers of the National Basketball Association. Those 2 facts, his birthday and his employer, don't convey everything they should, because by the time Bronny was born, his father was already the most watched teenager in the history of basketball. LeBron at 19 was on the cover of Sports Illustrated. He was on ESPN. He was the conversation. And into that conversation, a son was born, carrying the name before he could even hold a basketball. Bronny was born in Akron, Ohio, to reigning NBA Rookie of the Year, LeBron James, age 19, and his girlfriend Savannah Brinson, age 18. His father was a professional athlete before he could walk. The bar wasn't just high, it was made of a different material than most people will ever encounter. The eldest son of NBA superstar LeBron James, he rose to prominence through high school basketball at Sierra Canyon School in Chatsworth, California, where he played as a combo guard and contributed to competitive teams. Despite the intense scrutiny from his father's fame, Sierra Canyon, if you know the school, you know what it is. A talent factory with a roster that reads like a who's who of future pros. But even there, Bronny was the name. Every game had cameras that weren't there for the other kids. Every missed shot was a story. Every breakout performance was contextualized. Against a father who had never had a bad season, that kind of pressure doesn't toughen most people. It bends them. By 2015, James was receiving scholarship offers and letters of interest from college basketball programs. According to his father, who commented, "It should be a violation. You shouldn't be recruiting 10-year-old kids." 10 years old. Scholarship interest at 10 years old. Let that breathe for a second. Sierra Canyon wasn't just another high school. It was a pressure cooker disguised as a basketball program. The school's roster during Bronny's time there included multiple future Division I players, and at least 3 other guys who'd eventually get drafted or sign pro contracts overseas. Bronny played alongside Zaire Wade, son of Dwayne Wade, and Amari Bailey, who'd go on to play at UCLA before entering the draft himself. The team regularly played nationally televised games, sold-out gyms, ESPN broadcasts. The entire apparatus of high school basketball turned up to maximum volume. And in the middle of all that noise, Bronny was trying to figure out who he was as a player. Not as LeBron's kid. Not as the most famous high school athlete in America. Just as a basketball player trying to get better. His sophomore year at Sierra Canyon was cut short by a meniscus injury. He went down in February 2021 and didn't return for the rest of the season. That injury, minor in the grand scheme of things, became its own media cycle. LeBron spoke about it publicly. Analysts debated whether he'd come back the same. The scrutiny never stopped. When he returned for his junior season, he was coming off surgery and months of rehab. His game had changed. He was less aggressive attacking the rim, more cautious with his body, clearly still working his way back to full speed. And every step of that process was documented, analyzed, and criticized online. He first appeared in recruiting rankings before his sophomore season, and 247 Sports and ESPN rated him a 4-star recruit and a top 30 player in the 2023 class. Early in his junior season, coming off that injury, James fell to 52nd and 49th in rankings by 247 Sports and ESPN, respectively. So the rankings moved. Kids' rankings always move. But when your last name is James, every dip in ranking becomes its own news cycle. In his senior season, he rose in rankings from each service, with On3 ranking James the 9th best player in his class. A top 10 recruit. That's not a charity placement. That's a legitimate college prospect by any reasonable standard, even when the internet decided it wasn't. His senior year game tape showed a player who developed into a legitimate two-way threat. Defensively, he was already elite for his age. Quick feet, good instincts, willing to take on the toughest assignments. Offensively, he was more of a facilitator than a scorer, but he'd shown flashes of being able to create his own shot when necessary. A consensus 4-star recruit, James was named a McDonald's All-American as a senior in high school in 2023. He played one season of college basketball for the USC Trojans before being selected by the Lakers in the second round of the 2024 NBA draft. But between the McDonald's All-American game and that draft night, something happened that nobody was ready for. The McDonald's All-American game itself was a mixed bag for Bronny. He played 17 minutes, scored 6 points on 2 of 9 shooting, grabbed 3 rebounds, and dished out 4 assists. Not great, not terrible, just a solid showing in a game that's more exhibition than actual competition. But the bigger story was just being there. The McDonald's All-American game is where future NBA stars go to announce themselves. Kevin Durant played in it, Anthony Davis, Zion Williamson, and now Bronny James. The company alone tells you something about where he was ranked among his peers. After the game, scouts who'd been following him throughout high school offered their assessments. The consensus, Bronny was an NBA prospect, but not a one-and-done type. He'd need time to develop in college. He'd need to get stronger, tighten his handle, and figure out how to create offense in half-court sets. Standard stuff for most prospects. For Bronny, every word was evidence for or against his legitimacy. The recruitment process for Bronny was unlike anything college basketball had ever seen. Every school that offered him knew they weren't just recruiting a 4-star guard. They were recruiting the son of the most famous basketball player on the planet, with all the media attention and scrutiny that came with it. Schools like Duke, Kentucky, North Carolina, and Ohio State all made pitches. But USC had a geographic advantage. It was close to the Lakers, close to LeBron's LA home, and offered a program that was rebuilding but had NBA talent development as its core focus. When Bronny committed to USC in May 2023, the reactions split exactly as you'd expect. Some people praised him for staying close to home and choosing a program where he could develop without the pressure of a blue blood program. Others accused him of taking the easy route, picking USC because it wouldn't push him too hard. USC head coach Andy Enfield knew exactly what he was getting into when Bronny committed. He'd be coaching the most scrutinized freshman in college basketball on a team that would suddenly be playing in front of sold-out crowds every night, home and away. Enfield told reporters after Bronny's commitment, "Bronny is an elite defender who plays with great instincts and energy. He's got a high basketball IQ, and he competes. Those are the things we value most in our program." Notice what Enfield didn't say. He didn't talk about Bronny's scoring. He didn't talk about his potential to be a star. He talked about defense, IQ, and effort. That was the sell. And then before Bronny ever played a single game in a USC uniform, everything almost ended on a practice floor in July. On July 24, 2023, James collapsed during a USC practice session at the Galen Center. It was later revealed that he had suffered cardiac arrest caused by a congenital heart defect, not a cramp, not heat exhaustion, cardiac arrest. James was released from the hospital 3 days later. Less than 5 months later, James made his collegiate debut for the Trojans, finishing with 4 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals, and 1 block off the bench in an 84-79 loss against Long Beach State. 5 months, from cardiac arrest to an NCAA game floor in 5 months. That's not the timeline of someone gliding through doors his father opened. That's a kid fighting his way back from the edge. He was diagnosed with a congenital heart defect, meaning that his heart is structured abnormally. While the top doctors examined Bronny and cleared him to continue playing, it's important to understand the risk involved, especially as he transitions to becoming a professional athlete. He played anyway. With the full understanding of the stakes, he chose basketball knowing the math. The medical details of what happened that day remain mostly private. What's known is that Bronny collapsed during a team workout, went into cardiac arrest, and was rushed to the hospital where doctors stabilized him and began running tests to figure out what had happened. The James family released a statement 3 days later, confirming the cardiac arrest and the congenital heart defect diagnosis. They asked for privacy during the recovery process, and for one of the few times in Bronny's life, the media actually gave it to them. LeBron didn't play in any preseason games that year. He stayed with his son. The Lakers understood. The league understood. For a few weeks, basketball stopped mattering because a father almost lost his child, and nothing else registers in that moment. In a statement, the James family said Bronny James has a congenital heart defect, which is treatable, according to medical professionals tasked with his care. Treatable, not gone, treatable. There is a version of his story where none of the rest of this happens. No USC season, no draft, no Lakers, no history with his father. That version was a real possibility in a Galen Center gym that summer, but he came back. He was medically cleared to return in November 2023 and made his debut in December, averaging modest stats over 25 games in his lone season amid ongoing recovery and adjustment. Modest stats. That's what the box score shows. What the box score doesn't show is that a 19-year-old was playing organized basketball 5 months after his heart stopped. Bronny James' selection as the 55th overall pick by the Los Angeles Lakers in the 2024 NBA Draft occurred despite underwhelming college statistics at the University of Southern California, where he averaged 4.8 points, 2.8 rebounds, and 2.1 assists per game across 25 appearances, shooting 36.6% from the field and 26.7% from three-point range following his recovery from cardiac arrest. Those numbers set the internet on fire, and they haven't stopped burning. USC's season with Bronny was up and down. The team finished 15-18 overall, missing the NCAA tournament entirely. Bronny started just 6 games, coming off the bench for the majority of the season as he continued to work his way back to full strength. His best game came against Washington State in late January, when he scored 11 points on 4 of 7 shooting, with 5 rebounds and 3 assists in 28 minutes. That performance showed flashes of what he could be: an active defender, a willing passer, and a player who could make open shots when defenses sagged off him. But there were also games where he struggled to get going offensively. Games where he played 20-plus minutes and scored just 2 or 3 points. Games where his shot wasn't falling and he couldn't create his own offense against bigger, more physical defenders. That inconsistency became the story of his one season in college. Andy Enfield spoke about Bronny's season in an end-of-year press conference, saying, "Bronny came in under incredibly difficult circumstances. He had to recover from a life-threatening medical event, adjust to the college game, and do it all under a spotlight that no freshman should have to deal with. I'm proud of how he handled it." Enfield continued, "He's a better player now than when he got here. His defense improved, his understanding of the game improved, and most importantly, his body is healthy and strong. That's what matters most coming out of this season." That was the pitch Bronny would carry into the draft process. Not the stats, but the trajectory. Not the highlights, but the intangibles. Not what he'd done, but what he could become. James has been described as a Nepo baby, with critics suggesting that his father's influence played a significant role in his opportunities. After James was selected to play in the 2023 McDonald's All-American game, recruiting analyst Dinos Trigonis raised concerns about a smell of nepotism here that isn't good for our kids. The Los Angeles Lakers faced similar allegations after their selection of James in the 2024 NBA Draft, which allowed him to play on the same team as his father, despite widespread concerns about his lackluster college play and readiness for the league. According to ESPN analyst Bob Myers, James's agent, Rich Paul, discouraged other teams from selecting him in the draft, threatening to have him play overseas if chosen by another team. That's a detail most people never circle back to. Rich Paul essentially clearing the lane so the Lakers could get the pick. The NBA ecosystem bending around one family's goals. That's not nothing, but it's also not the whole story. ESPN reporter Adrian Wojnarowski addressed the claims of nepotism by stating that such practices are prevalent in various roles in the NBA. Woj was essentially saying, "You want to be outraged at this? Pick a lane, because the entire league is built on access and relationships." Bronny's situation was just more visible than most. Teams know quite a bit more about him than they know about most other players, and have more reasons to believe he might turn into a viable pro. He has grown up playing basketball alongside perhaps the greatest player of all time, as well as many of his peers. Bronny likely understands the grind of an NBA life. Perhaps he is more coachable, less likely to have off-the-court problems. That argument doesn't get made enough. Growing up literally inside the greatest basketball education ever assembled isn't a red flag. It's a development advantage that no scouting report can fully capture. The question was never really whether Bronny got a leg up. The question was, can he do anything with it? LeBron himself fired back at the noise. "The kid has earned his right to be a professional athlete," LeBron told Time magazine. "The thing you're not going to do is throw stones at us as a family." LeBron continued, "I'm not letting that slide, because I know what I've created because of what I didn't have. So if you want to talk about the kid that he shouldn't be an NBA player, I don't care about that. As long as you don't get to the fatherhood piece, I don't play those games." That's a father talking, not a franchise player. And there's a difference, because LeBron, the father, and LeBron, the franchise player, had two very different interests converging on one very specific outcome: getting his son onto the same court. In 2023, LeBron touched on his career winding down, saying, "My last year will be played with my son." He said it publicly. He built it into his career planning. And when the Lakers moved to make it happen, nobody should have been surprised, because LeBron had been telegraphing this for years. LeBron James, Bronny's father and a Lakers superstar, had publicly expressed a desire to play alongside his son, stating in January 2022 that it was a dream and influencing team strategy, with the Lakers acquiring the 55th pick specifically to facilitate this outcome. So yes, the machinery was built around making this happen. Was Bronny the engine? Number. Was he the only reason the machine ran? Also no. The reality is messier than either side of the debate wants to admit. It's not purely nepotism. It's not purely merit. It's the strange, only in the NBA intersection of legacy, love, business, and basketball, all tangled up in a 21-year-old who just wants to hoop. And now, heading into year 3, he has to figure out who he is when none of that noise has a face anymore. The biggest variable surrounding his future had been LeBron James. The 4-time MVP was one of the NBA's biggest free agents this summer, and his decision could shape the Lakers' direction moving forward. That variable is now resolved. LeBron is gone. In the meantime, it appears that Bronny will begin his 3rd NBA season wearing purple and gold, with another opportunity to continue proving he belongs at the highest level. But this time, the scoreboard is different. There's no father to deflect the scrutiny. There's no shared headline to hide behind. It's just him and the court. And the court, as Bronny has been learning slowly and steadily over 2 full seasons, doesn't care about your last name. It doesn't care what your father won. It doesn't care about the narrative. The court just asks one question: can you play? And this is where the second half of the story lives, in what Bronny has actually done on a basketball floor, and what it tells us about what's coming next. Rookies coming out of the second round aren't expected to set the world on fire. That's not a bias against Bronny specifically. That's just the structure of how the league works. Bronny James is already preparing for his 3rd NBA season. The 2024 second-round pick has continued to develop within the Los Angeles Lakers organization. Over his first 2 professional seasons, splitting time between the NBA and the G League, while gradually carving out a reserve role at the NBA level. Splitting time, G League reserve role. For anyone else with that draft position, that would be the expected trajectory. But because of the name on the back of the jersey, every game he didn't play was a referendum. Every quiet night on the bench was content for somebody's hot take. Regardless, Bronny has shown signs of development as an NBA player. Since making his first appearance on opening night of the 2024-25 season. Opening night, his debut in an NBA regular season game, came alongside his father. No rookie entrance has ever been more watched, more dissected, or more loaded with subtext. His first season was defined by adjustment. That's the only honest framing. Bronny only played in 27 games across his rookie year with the Lakers. spending much of his time developing in the team's G League affiliate. But here's what you have to know about G League time. For a young player on a contending roster, it's not punishment, it's construction. Every game in South Bay was a rep he needed. The South Bay Lakers became Bronny's laboratory. No cameras, no national storylines, just basketball. He played 24 games down there in his rookie season, averaging 13.4 points, 4.1 rebounds, and 3.8 assists per game, while shooting 35.2% from three-point range. Those are numbers that tell a different story than his NBA stat line. The G League showed what Bronny looked like when he had the ball in his hands, and the green light to make mistakes. He ran pick and rolls, he initiated offense, he took shots he'd never get to take in NBA games. And slowly, game by game, he started figuring out what worked. As for James, the USC product appears to be gaining confidence as he continues to get comfortable at the NBA level in Los Angeles, whether it's in the G League with the South Bay Lakers or when called up to the parent club. That comfort level became the story of his sophomore season, a player visibly growing in real time, not just in the stats but in how he moved, how he defended, how he made decisions. After a blowout loss to the San Antonio Spurs on Tuesday night, where all 5 usual starters sat out with injuries, second-year guard Bronny James spoke to the media. He expressed confidence that the squad could be legitimate title contenders. There's something to note there. He wasn't ducking the mic. He was the voice the team sent out. He told reporters, "I feel different. I feel way more comfortable. My teammates believe in me. My coaches believe in me. That's all I've wanted, so it's just good to get out there and take advantage of it." That's not a guy reading a press conference script. That's a player who's been waiting for his coaches to stop looking past him and finally feeling like they don't. The moment that crystallized his second season came when the Lakers were ravaged by injuries. Doncic out, Reeves missing time, Smart unavailable. Bronny stepped into rotational minutes, delivering 2 strong outings at home and again on the road in Portland, which LeBron James emphasized as a key test of an NBA player's growth. LeBron told Steve Nash on the Mind the Game podcast, "I was just super proud of him, of the maturation process. Not super proud of the performance. Super proud of the process." Because LeBron has seen this game long enough to know the difference between a flash and a foundation. James averaged 9.1 minutes per game in March, while his competition didn't make a single appearance. Then in April, James averaged 16.8 minutes per game to help the injury-ravaged Lakers close the season out. 16.8 minutes per game in April. That's not filler. That's real rotation time when the team needed it most. Bronny shot 38.6% from the three-point line on 1.4 attempts per game and earned playoff minutes in the Rockets series. Playoff minutes in the NBA playoffs. As a second-round pick from a controversial draft class, coming off a career that nearly ended before it started on a practice floor. Bronny's role in the NBA long-term is likely as a 3-and-D guard who can come off the bench and make an impact. In his limited minutes against Houston, he did exactly that. The archetype is clean. The projection is reasonable. The question is whether the player himself grows into it, or whether removing LeBron from the equation changes the dynamic entirely. During the 2025-26 season, James appeared in 42 games for the Lakers, averaging 2.9 points, 1.2 assists, and 0.5 rebounds, and continued to show progress as a perimeter defender and secondary playmaker. Raw numbers, they're still modest. But games played moved from 27 in year 1 to 42 in year 2. That's a 55% jump in appearances. The direction is clear, even if the ceiling isn't. One game that stood out came in late February against the Memphis Grizzlies. The Lakers were up 20 going into the 4th quarter, and JJ Redick cleared the bench. Bronny checked in with 9:47 left and immediately made his presence felt on defense. He picked up Ja Morant full court. Morant, clearly not interested in exerting himself in a blowout, tried a few half-hearted moves and found Bronny glued to him. On one possession, Bronny stripped Morant clean at the three-point line and pushed it the other way for a layup. The Crypto.com arena crowd, the ones who'd stuck around, went crazy. It wasn't a big moment in terms of the game's outcome. The Lakers were already winning easily, but it was a moment that showed what Bronny does best. Active hands, quick feet, the willingness to get into a star's space and make him work for everything. That's the kind of play that gets you minutes in the NBA, even when your shot isn't falling. In one media session, he spoke about guarding Spurs superstar Victor Wembanyama. "It's something else for sure," he said. I'm one of the smaller guys on the floor guarding the tallest guy in the league. So it's definitely a challenge, but I'm up for anything. Up for anything. That mindset, not the stat line, is the thing coaches fall in love with. James's stats are similar to his rookie season, with some areas of improvement, as he is shooting 40.7% from the field and 42.3% from distance, while seeing a slight boost in minutes per game. 42% from three in the periods he was shooting it. For a player whose entire college career was defined by shooting questions, that number is not small. His strongest performance came in a loss to the Atlanta Hawks, when he posted 9 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists, and a steal, on 4 of 6 shooting in 18 minutes. 9 points in 18 minutes. Efficient, active, impactful. That's not the performance of a guy hanging onto a roster spot by his father's coattails. That's a player earning his right to be there. Another game worth noting came against the Clippers in early March. Bronny checked in midway through the third quarter, with the Lakers down 7. He immediately hit a corner 3 off a swing pass from Austin Reeves. 2 possessions later, he deflected a pass that led to a fast break dunk for Luka Doncic. By the time he checked out 6 minutes later, the Lakers had cut the lead to 2. It wasn't a spectacular performance. He finished with 5 points and 1 assist in those 6 minutes. But the plus-minus told the story. He was a +9 in that stretch. When he was on the floor, the Lakers outscored the Clippers by 9 points. That's the kind of impact that doesn't show up in box scores, but absolutely shows up in coaches' evaluations. JJ Redick mentioned that stretch specifically in his post-game press conference. "Bronny gave us great energy when we needed it," Redick said. "He was active defensively, hit a big shot, and just played smart basketball. That's what we need from him. Not to be perfect, just to be solid and impactful when his numbers called." The internal evaluation at the Lakers clearly reflected what they were seeing. A path was unequivocally cleared for James to secure a bigger role this coming season, when the Lakers declined a low-cost team option to bring Nick Smith Jr. back for 2026-27. They didn't just keep Bronny, they cleared space for him. They told Smith to move on and kept Bronny. With this in mind, perhaps it was always in the cards for James to be prioritized over Smith in regard to their team options. The bigger picture, however, is that he's now a key part of the rotation. Key part of the rotation. 2 years in. That's not nothing. The backcourt picture at the Lakers entering the new season is worth examining, because it tells you exactly where Bronny sits in the hierarchy. The Los Angeles Lakers concluded the 2025-26 regular season with an apparent hierarchy in the backcourt. Luka Doncic and Austin Reeves were locked in as the starters, with Marcus Smart and Luke Kennard trailing them as the 3rd and 4th guards. Certainly that would leave Bronny James at 5th. 5th on the depth chart, not a starter, not even a clear rotation lock, until the team started making moves that said otherwise. Based on minutes per game, it was Nick Smith Jr. who held that spot, but a path was unequivocally cleared for James to secure a bigger role this coming season, when the Lakers declined a low-cost team option to bring Smith back. For 2026-27, Los Angeles has a known dearth of talent in its developmental pipeline. Of the few up-and-coming players on the roster, James is the only one who fits his upside description as a point guard defender, who can ideally build upon a season in which he shot 38.6% from beyond the arc. The pipeline is thin, the need is real. And Bronny, for all the controversy around his origin story, is the best answer the organization has to that specific question right now. Bronny's role in the NBA long-term is likely as a 3-and-D guard, who can come off the bench and make an impact. That's the projection. That's the box they're trying to put him in. And for the record, there are worse boxes to be in. The 3-and-D reserve is one of the most coveted roster spots in the modern NBA. Teams pay real money for a guy who can guard and knock down open threes without mucking up the offense. One expert noted that Bronny definitely has NBA athleticism. He also plays a very high IQ game. He plays smart basketball. A coach would say he's playing the way coaches want you to play, not trying to do everything himself. His defense is already very good, and he's got an NBA build. Basketball IQ, that's the piece the numbers can't capture, and it's also the piece that has the longest shelf life in the league. What separates Bronny from other players at his experience level is his understanding of spacing and timing. He doesn't stand in the corner waiting for his shot. He moves, he cuts, he relocates to give his teammates better passing angles. That kind of off-ball movement is usually something players don't figure out until year 4 or 5. Assistant coach Phil Handy spoke about this in a radio interview during the season. Bronny sees the game 2 passes ahead, Handy said. He knows where he needs to be before the ball even gets swung his way. That's not something you can really teach. You either have it or you don't, and he's got it. But all of this, the development arc, the G League reps, the playoff minutes, the contract guarantee, exists inside a larger machine that was fundamentally restructured during LeBron's final season. And that restructuring is what makes Bronny's future genuinely complicated. In his own words, the Lakers acquired Luka Doncic at the trade deadline, a stunning blockbuster that forced them to reconsider the timeline they prioritized in building their roster. Doncic and Austin Reeves were suddenly the priorities, pushing James down the organizational pecking order. When he returned from a bout with sciatica early in the season, he was, for the first time in his career, the number 3 option. LeBron as the 3rd option on his own team. That's the world Bronny grew up in. James settled in, and the Lakers ultimately went 15-2 in March, with the James Doncic-Reeves trio on a heater. Any championship hopes the Lakers might have harbored were ultimately dashed when Doncic and Reeves suffered late-season injuries. James still led the Lakers to a first-round upset over the Houston Rockets, but they were swept in the second round by the Oklahoma City Thunder. Swept, out in the second round. And now LeBron, the man who dragged them past Houston, is gone. The new boss is Luka, and Bronny is still here, contract guaranteed, carving out a lane in a franchise that has completely reinvented itself. Looking back at the Houston series, Bronny played in 3 of the 5 games. His minutes were limited, never more than 7 in any single game, but he was active when he was out there. In Game 3, with the series tied 1-1 and the Lakers needing a road win, Bronny checked in late in the 3rd quarter and immediately knocked down a 3 from the left wing. That shot gave the Lakers a 6-point cushion, and they never looked back. After the game, LeBron was asked about seeing Bronny contribute in the playoffs. His answer was simple: "That's my son. I'm proud of him every time he steps on that floor. But tonight, he was just a teammate who helped us win. That's what matters. Teammate, not son. Teammate." That distinction mattered to Bronny more than anyone knew. The development staff at the Lakers tracks specific metrics for young players. Things like defensive rotations completed correctly, open threes attempted versus made, hockey assists, the pass before the assist, and what they call winning plays, deflections, charges taken, loose balls recovered. Bronny ranked in the top 3 on the roster in winning plays, per 36 minutes in his 2nd season. That stat doesn't make headlines. It doesn't generate social media buzz, but it's the kind of thing that keeps a player employed in the NBA, because at the end of the day, rosters are built around 2 types of players: stars who create advantages, and role players who don't give advantages back. Bronny is learning how to be the 2nd type. The coaching staff's end-of-season report on Bronny, according to sources familiar with the evaluation, highlighted his defensive growth, his improved 3-point shooting, and his ability to play within the system without forcing things. The areas for improvement: creating his own shot off the dribble, playing with more aggression, attacking closeouts, and continuing to add strength to his frame. That last point, adding strength, is something Bronny's been working on since he got to the league at 6'2" and 210 pounds. He's not undersized for a guard, but NBA physicality is different from college or high school. Guys are stronger, more physical, better at using their bodies to create space. Bronny spent the summer between his rookie and sophomore seasons, working with the strength coach in Miami. He added 8 pounds of muscle while maintaining his lateral quickness, a difficult balance to strike. The difference showed up in his 2nd year. He wasn't getting bumped off his spots as easily. He was finishing through contact better. He was holding his ground against bigger guards on switches. The Lakers training staff documented a 12% improvement in his vertical leap and a measurable increase in his first step explosion. Those gains translated directly to his on-court performance. More deflections, more contested shots at the rim, more ability to stay in front of quicker guards on the perimeter. The most revealing piece of information in this entire situation didn't come from LeBron's exit. It came from a restaurant in West Hollywood called Craig's, more than a year before any of this went public. Speaking on ESPN's NBA Today, Ramona Shelburne revealed what happened behind closed doors when Rob Pelinka, JJ Redick, Luka Doncic, and his business manager, Laura Beth Seeger, met at Craig's on Melrose shortly after the Lakers' playoff exit. In 2025, Rob Pelinka took Luka Doncic and his manager, Laura Beth Seeger, to lunch at Craig's on Melrose. Shelburne said, Rob Pelinka and JJ Redick showed up. At that meeting, they laid out their plans, and that was to convince Luka Doncic to sign that extension he ended up signing. And crucially, according to Shelburne, at that meeting they laid out their plans. In those plans, they did not include LeBron James. Not in the plans, a full year before it became public. The Lakers had already drawn the blueprint, and LeBron wasn't in it. The meeting came before Doncic signed his 3-year, $165 million extension with the Lakers, making it the organization's first formal presentation of its long-term vision around the Slovenian superstar, a $165 million bet on the future. And LeBron wasn't part of the pitch. According to reporting, Pelinka's presentation focused on preserving future salary cap flexibility while building a roster around Doncic's championship window, rather than extending the LeBron era. That's the front office explicitly saying LeBron was the past. Luka is the future. And they said it directly to Luka in a restaurant before the ink was dry on anything. Shelburne's report also helps explain why the Lakers' recent roster decisions have increasingly reflected a Luka-first approach. Every signing, every waiver, every option decision, all of it runs through what works for a roster built around a 26-year-old point guard, entering what should be the prime of his career. Just hours after her comments aired, ESPN's Shams Charania reported that LeBron James informed the Lakers he will enter free agency, ending an 8-year run in Los Angeles while continuing his NBA career elsewhere. The timing turned what had been viewed as long-term planning into the franchise's immediate reality. Long-term planning, suddenly the present tense. The restaurant conversation became the official policy in the span of one afternoon. With James out and Reeves on a new max contract, the Lakers enter a new era, with Doncic at the helm. Max contract for Reeves. Doncic already locked up. The structure is clear. The remaining pieces, including Bronny, need to fit inside a very specific construction. So where does a 21-year-old second-round pick fit on a roster that's now chasing a championship around Luka Doncic? Bronny's contract is minimal, with a team option for next season. Even if LeBron leaves, continuing to develop Bronny, while he's playing on essentially a league minimum contract, would be the smart play. Smart play. That's the phrase that unlocks the whole thing. In a league where rosters are constructed like budgets, having a player with defensive upside, three-point range, and high basketball IQ on a near minimum deal is exactly what teams at the luxury tax line are looking for. Bronny isn't on the roster as a favor anymore, if he ever really was. He's on the roster because at his price point he makes sense. More interesting will be how the Lakers choose to construct a younger team around Luka Doncic, who is now 100% the face of the franchise. That construction process is going to define the next 2 or 3 seasons in Los Angeles. And inside that process, every roster spot below the top 4 or 5 is going to be fought for hard. Ramona Shelburne noted, they had salary cap space starting this summer. LeBron played incredible last season. He has been an asset to this team. He was willing to take a third role. I think the Lakers would love to have him back, but he has not given them an answer. They would have loved to have him back. He just didn't give them that answer. And now Bronny is the only James left in the building. The acquisition of Luka Doncic itself deserves more scrutiny because it fundamentally changed everything about how the Lakers were built. The trade happened on February 6, 2025, the deadline day. The Lakers sent D'Angelo Russell, Rui Hachimura, 2 first-round picks, and 2 pick swaps to Dallas, in exchange for Doncic and a second-round pick. It was a massive gamble. The Lakers were essentially betting that pairing a 40-year-old LeBron James with a 25-year-old Luka Doncic would be enough to contend for a championship in 2025 and beyond. And in the short term, it worked. The Lakers went 28-11 after the trade and looked like legitimate championship contenders until injuries derailed their playoff run. But the long-term implications were even bigger. By trading for Doncic, the Lakers were signaling that they were ready to transition away from the LeBron era. They were bringing in a player who could be the face of the franchise for the next decade, and they were doing it while LeBron was still on the roster, still contributing, still capable of being an all-star. The meeting at Craig's wasn't just about getting Doncic to sign an extension. It was about laying out a vision for what the Lakers would look like post-LeBron, and making sure Luka understood that he'd be at the center of that vision, not playing second fiddle to an aging legend. Pelinka reportedly told Doncic at that meeting that the Lakers would use their cap space in the summer of 2026 to add another star alongside him. Names like Jason Tatum, Donovan Mitchell, and Bam Adebayo were floated as potential targets. The pitch was simple: stick with us, and we'll build a championship roster around you. Doncic signed the extension 3 weeks after that meeting, and less than a year later, LeBron was gone. The plan had worked exactly as Pelinka drew it up, even if nobody outside the organization knew what the plan was until it was already in motion. Per Keith Smith, Bronny's contract has become fully guaranteed for $4.3 million. He is now set to earn more than $2.2 million with the Lakers for next season, with a team option for the 2027-28 campaign. Per Spotrac, that team option is the real number to watch. It tells you whether the Lakers see him as a keeper beyond year 3, or whether they want to keep their options open after they've gotten a clearer read on who he is as a player without LeBron in the building. The deal included 3 guaranteed seasons and a 4th-year team option worth approximately $2.49 million for 2027-28. His salaries rise from $1.16 million as a rookie to $1.96 million in year 2, $2.3 million in year 3, and a team option salary of $2.49 million in the final season. Even if they exercise that option, we're talking about a fraction of what any other player in this situation would cost. The financial argument for keeping Bronny is almost embarrassingly simple. Continuing to develop Bronny while he's playing on essentially a league minimum contract would be the smart play. That's not a sentimental statement. That's a front office calculation, and it explains why the guarantee happened before LeBron's exit was even announced. The Lakers' salary cap situation heading into the 2026-27 season is fascinating because it shows exactly how much flexibility they've created by moving on from LeBron. With LeBron's $48.7 million off the books, the Lakers project to have roughly $35 million in cap space, enough to add a legitimate second star next to Doncic. They're already being linked to every available free agent. Miami's Jimmy Butler, who has a player option for next season. Detroit's Cade Cunningham, who will be a restricted free agent. Even Phoenix's Kevin Durant, who could theoretically opt out and test the market at 37 years old. The Lakers have options. But the most realistic scenario, according to front office insiders, is that the Lakers use that cap space to sign a complementary piece, a 3-and-D wing or a stretch big, rather than chasing another superstar. The goal is to build depth and flexibility around Doncic and Reeves, not to recreate the top-heavy construction that defined the LeBron years. The Draymond Green LeBron Warriors angle is worth sitting with for a moment, because it nearly changed everything for Bronny. Speculation about James's free agency had run rampant, particularly centered around rumors that he could join the Golden State Warriors. That pairing went from a pipe dream to potentially reality when Warriors star Draymond Green declined his $27.7 million player option for the 2026-27 season on Monday. That move by Green could give the Warriors the financial flexibility needed to sign James and also, as rumored, trade for Wizards star Anthony Davis, giving Golden State a big four of Stephen Curry, James Davis, and Green. ESPN's Shams Charania reported that the Warriors had a goal to assemble a big four of James, Stephen Curry, Draymond Green, and Anthony Davis, a 4-man super team in Golden State. If that happens, if LeBron ends up in a Warriors jersey, it raises a question nobody wants to say out loud. Would he push for Bronny to come too? That's why Bronny could make sense as a league minimum contract for the Warriors. If his deal doesn't become fully guaranteed by the Lakers, the Warriors would be taking a shot on someone who has shown signs of being a productive rotation player in the NBA. The most likely path is Bronny returning after the Lakers guaranteed the remainder of his deal, but never say never. The Lakers moved first. They locked it in before LeBron even made his call. So that door, for now, is closed. The Warriors are current favorites to land James in free agency with -500 odds, with the Cavaliers at +300. Heat at +1,000 and Spurs at +2,000. Heavy favorite. So the realistic scenario is LeBron in Golden State, potentially with his old teammate Davis, chasing one last ring with Steph Curry. That's the movie. That's the storyline the sports world is obsessing over right now. And all the while, Bronny James sits in Los Angeles, contract guaranteed, no longer riding in the slipstream of his father's presence, starting fresh in a franchise that's moved past the chapter LeBron defined, and doing it at 21 years old in a city where everyone has an opinion about whether he was ever supposed to be here. The recent move with Bronny is intriguing. as his father had been a mentor for him, as he developed his game between the Lakers and their G League squad. Sports analysts and critics have questioned Bronny's ability to succeed in the NBA, especially playing in the shadow of his legendary father. The shadow was the story. But shadows don't exist without the person casting them. LeBron just walked out of the room. Now everybody gets to find out what the light looks like on Bronny when it's just him. The 2025-26 NBA season had been somewhat up and down for the Los Angeles Lakers, as the team dealt with several injuries to key players. Despite those injuries and many different lineups, the Lakers remained competitive as a middle-of-the-pack team in the Western Conference. Although there's a lot of uncertainty about the team's future, especially with drastic changes to the front office expected in the NBA offseason, the Lakers remain in the hunt to secure a high seed in the West. The uncertainty that Ramona Shelburne described, the front office changes, the rebuild around Luka, that's not background noise for Bronny. It's the central fact of his basketball life for the next 12 months. The organization is reshaping itself. The question is whether that reshaping includes him or moves past him. James's departure removes any remaining uncertainty surrounding the direction Pelinka outlined to Doncic nearly a year ago. The franchise that spent the better part of a decade building around LeBron has officially entered its Luka Doncic era. While Bronny's guaranteed contract ensures one member of the James family will still be part of the Lakers' next chapter. The Luka era, new logo energy, new marketing direction, new championship narrative. Bronny doesn't need to be the face of any of that. He just needs to stay useful enough that they keep him around for it. LeBron, the 41-year-old, still has a lot left in the tank as a player, and he adjusted his style to play off the ball a little more in 2025-26. His 27.2% usage rate was a career low per Basketball Reference. A career low usage rate at 41. He shrunk his game to fit the moment. Bronny watched that in real time. Watch the greatest player ever voluntarily step back and play complementary basketball for the good of the team. That's a masterclass in what a professional athlete looks like when ego exits the building. Despite his age and the advanced basketball miles on his body, LeBron averaged 20.9 points, 7.2 assists, and 6.1 rebounds in 60 games as one of the most productive players in the league. 20.9, 7 assists, 6 rebounds at 41, and he still left. Because it wasn't about the basketball anymore. It was about the window, the chance, the championship math that no longer added up at Crypto.com arena. Bronny watched all of that too. Every part of it was an education. The other roster moves the Lakers made around the Doncic trade are worth examining because they show how committed the franchise was to this new direction. In addition to trading for Luka, the Lakers also moved Jared Vanderbilt and a protected first-round pick to Indiana for Miles Turner, giving them a stretch 5 who could space the floor for Doncic's drives. They waived veteran guard Dennis Schroeder, saving $13 million in luxury tax payments. They declined Jackson Hayes' team option, clearing another roster spot. They brought in Cason Wallace on a minimum deal to provide backcourt depth. Every move was about creating flexibility and building around a younger core. The front office's message was clear. We're not just trying to squeeze one more championship out of an aging roster. We're building something sustainable. And Bronny, for better or worse, is part of that sustainable plan. Not because of his father, but because of his contract and his skill set. JJ Redick's role in all of this can't be overstated. As a first-year head coach, Redick came into the job knowing he'd be managing the end of the LeBron era. What he probably didn't know was that the end would come so quickly, and that he'd be the one tasked with building the next chapter. Redick has been vocal about his plans for Bronny. In an interview with The Athletic in late May, he said Bronny's going to have every opportunity to earn real minutes next season. We're not handing him anything, but we're also not holding his last name against him. He's a good player who's still developing. If he shows up and does the work, he'll play. That's about as clear a statement of intent as you'll get from an NBA head coach. Bronny has a path to playing time, but he's going to have to earn it the same way. Every other young player on the roster has to earn it. No special treatment, no guaranteed minutes just because of who his father is. Here's what year 3 actually looks like on paper. The 2024 second-round pick has continued to develop within the Los Angeles Lakers organization over his first 2 professional seasons, splitting time between the NBA and the G League, while gradually carving out a reserve role at the NBA level. The trajectory is slow but real. The direction is upward, but upward and fast enough are 2 different things in a league that doesn't wait for anyone. Heading into his third season, Bronny enters with more guaranteed money, more organizational trust, and, for the first time ever, no parent at the next locker, no mentor who also happens to be the most analyzed athlete on the planet, no buffer between him and the full weight of the scrutiny. Bronny's ceiling as an NBA player is still to be determined, living up to the hype of what his father has accomplished during his NBA career would be the weight of the world. For any 21-year-old, that's the line that sits at the center of everything. The ceiling is unknown, and that's both terrifying and, in the right light, kind of exciting. While James specializes in defending smaller and quicker guards, Cameron Carr is a 6'5", 3-and-D wing. Dalton Knecht is a 6'6" wing scorer, and Adu Tiero is a 6'8" wing defender. Look at the depth chart around him. Those are young players. Those are development track guys just like him. The Lakers don't have a veteran logjam at his position, in the same way they did when LeBron and Marcus Smart and Luke Kennard were all healthy and playing above him in the rotation. The backcourt situation entering next season, once Marcus Smart's future gets resolved, could genuinely open minutes for Bronny in a way that hasn't existed before. Marcus Smart declining his $5.4 million Lakers option opens the door to potential moves. If Smart goes, the depth chart shifts again. Minutes become available, and Bronny, now fully guaranteed, and with 2 playoff appearances on his resume, is positioned to absorb some of those minutes. The bigger picture is that he's now a key part of the rotation. That sentence matters more than the stat line. Key part of the rotation isn't something a franchise says about a guy they're planning to move on from. It's what they say about a piece they actually want. The outside world, meanwhile, has a decision to make about how it frames Bronny going forward, because the nepotism story has a very specific shelf life, and it expires the moment the father is no longer around to be accused of pulling strings. What's left when LeBron isn't in the building anymore? Just a 21-year-old guard who survived cardiac arrest, came back from a congenital heart defect, got drafted in the second round, spent 2 seasons splitting time between the G League and the NBA, improved his three-point shooting to legitimate percentages, earned playoff minutes, and had his contract guaranteed by his franchise heading into year 3. Teams know quite a bit more about him than they know about most other players, and have more reasons to believe he might turn into a viable pro. He has grown up playing basketball alongside perhaps the greatest player of all time. Bronny likely understands the grind of an NBA life. Perhaps he is more coachable, less likely to have off-the-court problems. Those aren't irrelevant factors. They're exactly the kind of intangibles that keep a player around past their initial evaluation window. Living up to the hype of what his father has accomplished would be the weight of the world for any 21-year-old. Regardless, Bronny has shown signs of development as an NBA player since making his first appearance on opening night of the 2024-25 season. He shot 38.6% from the three-point line and earned playoff minutes in the Rockets series. Nobody is asking Bronny James to be LeBron. Nobody reasonable. Anyway, the actual bar is much simpler. Can he be a useful, professional NBA player who helps a championship-caliber roster without hurting it? Because that's the lane. That's the only lane that matters. For a second-round pick on a near-minimum deal, Bronny's role in the NBA long-term is likely as a 3-and-D guard who can come off the bench and make an impact. 3-and-D. Show me any playoff roster in the last decade that didn't need at least 2 of those. That's the job. Hit open threes, defend smaller guards, don't turn it over. Be in the right place, that's the whole description. And Bronny has already shown glimpses of being able to do exactly that. There's something almost quietly poetic about the timing here. The Lakers locked in Bronny's contract before LeBron made his decision public. The Lakers guaranteed Bronny's contract on June 29. Less than 24 hours later, Rich Paul informed the franchise that LeBron would enter free agency. Hours apart, 2 separate verdicts. The franchise decided Bronny was worth keeping on his own merits, or at least worth keeping at his price, before they even knew whether LeBron was staying or going. That's significant. It removes the "they're only keeping him because of his dad" argument, at least for this moment, because the sequencing doesn't support it. They kept him first, then LeBron left. That keeps Bronny in Los Angeles for the foreseeable future, as speculation continues about his father and also about the type of player Bronny might become in the NBA. The type of player Bronny might become. That's the remaining open question, and it's the one that year 3 is supposed to start answering. Training camp is where year 3 really begins. Not on opening night, not in the first regular season game, but in training camp when the roster is competing for spots and minutes and roles. That's where Bronny will either solidify his place in the rotation or find himself back in South Bay for extended stretches. The Lakers' training camp roster heading into 2026-27 is expected to be more competitive than in previous years. With LeBron gone and the franchise committed to building around Doncic, there are no guaranteed rotation spots outside the top 5 or 6 players. Everyone else is fighting. Bronny will be competing with Cason Wallace, Max Christie, and potentially a veteran minimum signing for the backup guard minutes. Behind Reeves and whoever else the Lakers bring in at the shooting guard spot, that competition is real. And it's exactly the kind of environment where Bronny can either prove he belongs or reveal that he still needs more development time. For LeBron, the journey continues elsewhere. The only item of significance left for James to achieve in the NBA would be to tie or pass his legacy rival Michael Jordan's total of 6 NBA championships. With his age 42 season approaching, that prospect is a long shot at best. A long shot. But LeBron has been beating long shots since he was 18 years old in Akron, so nobody should be putting odds on him with too much confidence. Meanwhile, a younger group of superstars, including perennial MVP Victor Wembanyama, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and Nikola Jokic, have supplanted James at the top of the league. But James remains an all-star level contributor and a proven winner who can make a difference. He's going somewhere with a real chance to compete. And when he gets there, the cameras will follow. Bronny, by contrast, is staying somewhere that's no longer built for the kind of story his father was trying to tell. The Luka era is about a different narrative, and somewhere inside that new chapter, quietly without fanfare, guaranteed contract in hand, is a 21-year-old, figuring out whether he can become something real on his own terms. The specific areas Bronny needs to improve heading into year 3 are well documented within the organization. First and foremost, creating his own offense. He's shown he can hit open threes and make the right pass, but can he get to his spots against closeouts? Can he attack a scrambling defense and finish through contact? Can he run a pick and roll as the ball handler and make the right read every time? Those are the questions that separate a rotation player from a guy who only plays in blowouts. And they're the questions Bronny is going to spend the summer working on with the Lakers player development staff. The organization has already mapped out his offseason plan: ball handling drills, finishing through contact at the rim, reading pick and roll coverages at full speed. The Lakers are also planning to have Bronny work extensively with shooting coach Lethal Shooter to refine his shot mechanics. His three-point percentage was solid, but the consistency wasn't there. Some nights he'd go 2 for 3, other nights 0 for 4. Finding that game-to-game reliability is critical for a player whose entire value proposition is built around spacing the floor. He made his NBA regular season debut in October 2024 alongside his father, with the pair making history as the first father-son duo in the league's history. That moment will live forever in the record books. Nothing changes it. Nothing erases it. And that moment, whatever you thought of how Bronny got there, was real. It happened. 2 generations of James on an NBA floor at the same time. You either watched it or you didn't. After Bronny and LeBron played alongside each other in an NBA playoff game in April, they became the first father-son pairing to do so. And then LeBron walked out of the building, not dramatically, not bitterly, with gratitude and a press release and a social media post thanking the franchise. Clean. That's the inheritance Bronny carries into year 3. Not the stats, not the contract number, not even the guaranteed money. The inheritance is the history they made together, and the question of what Bronny does with the floor now that he has it to himself. The word Bronny used, complicated, is the most honest word available for this situation. I feel different. I feel way more comfortable, he said. And then the same week, his father left. Comfort meeting complication at the same intersection. Because he does feel more comfortable as a player. 2 years of work, G League reps, playoff appearances, defensive assignments against Wembanyama. Those things build a player. And at the same moment, his basketball confidence is genuinely rising. The entire external context of his life in the NBA has just fundamentally changed. Father gone, franchise rebuilt, new era, new scrutiny, same last name. That keeps Bronny in Los Angeles for the foreseeable future, as speculation continues about his father and also about the type of player Bronny might become in the NBA. The speculation about his father is now fully resolved. What remains is the simpler, harder, more personal question. What type of player is Bronny James? Not LeBron's son. Not the nepotism debate. Just Bronny, number 9 in purple and gold, working on his handle in an empty gym at Arena, trying to figure out who he is when nobody else's story is in the room. In the meantime, it appears that Bronny will begin his 3rd NBA season wearing purple and gold, with another opportunity to continue proving he belongs at the highest level. 3rd season. That's the proving ground. 1st season is curiosity. 2nd season is adjustment. 3rd season is where the league starts making real decisions about who you are. The Lakers made their decision already. They kept him, cleared a competitor from the depth chart, and entered the offseason with Bronny James as a guaranteed piece of their future. Whatever shape the roster takes around him, whoever they sign with LeBron's vacated cap space, however they build this thing around Luka, Bronny is in the picture. And as for Bronny himself, he's told the media he's comfortable. He's told the media he's ready. He's told the media his coaches believe in him. Now, for the first time in his entire public basketball life, the story gets to be about whether those words match what happens when the ball goes up in October. No dad in the next locker. No shared headline. Just the game, the court, and the chance to answer the question that's been hanging over him since the day he was born. The Lakers' offseason program starts in early July. Bronny will be there, working with the team's development coaches, running through offensive sets with the 2nd unit, continuing to build the habits that separate good players from guys who get waived in year 3. He'll spend time with JJ Redick going over film, breaking down defensive coverages, learning how to read offenses before they even set up. He'll work with the strength staff to add another 5 or 10 pounds, without losing his quickness. He'll shoot thousands of three-pointers, working on his footwork and release point until the motion becomes automatic. And somewhere in the middle of all that work, he'll have to process what it means that his father is gone. Not just gone from the Lakers, but gone from his daily routine, his pre-game conversations, his post-game debriefs, gone from the locker room, gone from the plane rides, gone from the text messages after tough losses. Bronny hasn't spoken publicly about his father's departure yet. No statement, no social media post, no sit-down interview, just silence. And maybe that's the most revealing thing of all, because a kid who's been under a microscope his entire life, who's had every moment of his basketball journey documented and analyzed, has chosen this moment to say nothing. What does that silence mean? Maybe it means he's still processing it. Maybe it means he's tired of answering questions about his father and wants his game to speak for itself. Maybe it means he's protecting something private in a life that's been public since birth. Or maybe it just means he's 21 years old and doesn't owe anyone an explanation for how he feels about his dad leaving. Either way, the silence won't last forever. At some point, probably at Lakers Media Day in late September, Bronny will have to sit in front of reporters and answer questions about what it's like to be a Laker without LeBron. And the answer he gives will tell us a lot about where his head is heading into year 3. The Lakers' season opener is scheduled for October 22 against the Sacramento Kings at Crypto.com Arena. That game will be the first time Bronny James suits up in purple and gold without his father on the roster. The first time there's no LeBron to share the spotlight, deflect the attention, carry the weight. Will Bronny play in that game? Probably not. Unless there are injuries or blowout minutes, he'll likely be watching from the bench as Luka Doncic and Austin Reeves run the show. But at some point in that first week, maybe the second game, maybe the third, Bronny will check in. And when he does, every possession will be watched. Every shot will be analyzed. Every defensive rotation will be graded. That's the reality of year 3. The curiosity factor is gone. The playing with his dad storyline is over. Now it's just basketball. Now it's just a 21-year-old trying to prove he belongs in the best basketball league on the planet. And the only person who can answer that question is Bronny himself. So here's where we are. LeBron James has left the Lakers after 8 years. Bronny James is still a Laker, contract guaranteed, heading into his 3rd season. The franchise has moved on to the Luka Doncic era, and somewhere in the middle of all that change, all that transition, all that uncertainty, is a young player trying to figure out who he is, when the biggest name in basketball isn't there to provide cover anymore. The story isn't over, it's just beginning. Because for the first time since Bronny picked up a basketball, the narrative isn't about LeBron's dream of playing with his son. It's not about breaking records or making history or creating father-son moments that will live forever on highlight reels. It's about something simpler and harder. A kid trying to make it in the NBA on his own terms. Can he do it? Can Bronny James be a rotation player in the NBA without his father in the building? Can he carve out a career as a 3-and-D guard who helps championship teams without being the story? Can he handle the scrutiny, the pressure, the weight of expectations that will never fully go away as long as his last name is James? Year 3 will give us answers, not all of them. Not the final verdict on what kind of player Bronny James will become, but answers nonetheless. We'll see if the shooting holds up. We'll see if the defense translates to consistent minutes. We'll see if he can stay healthy, stay ready, and stay focused when the opportunity comes. We'll see if JJ Redick trusts him enough to put him in close games. We'll see if the Lakers front office exercises that team option for year 4. We'll see if Bronny James becomes the kind of player who sticks around for a decade as a valuable role player, or if he becomes another second-round pick who couldn't quite make it work. But most importantly, we'll see Bronny James without LeBron James for the first time in his professional life. And that alone makes year 3 the most interesting, most revealing, most important season of his career so far. Because now there's no one left to share the spotlight with. It's just Bronny, and the answer to whether he